Hello, and welcome back to another edition of History and Whatever. And on this episode of History Now, well, let's do something a little different. We're going to play a game called Good Congressman, Bad Congressman. You ready?
You know, I was not a political animal growing up. I never came to a town hall like this. I didn't study politics in school. I frankly didn't appreciate the important role that politics plays in our lives, at least not until I was on the ground in the infantry in Iraq. And that's where I felt for the first time in my life, I really saw the consequences of failed leadership in Washington, often measured in lives. And that fundamentally is what inspired me to run in the first place. There was a day back at my second deployment when a young Marine, a corporal in my platoon, actually said, "You know, sir, you ought to run for Congress someday so that this stuff doesn't happen again." Now, he used a Marine term for stuff, but I think you all understand what he meant.
Okay, what you just saw, that was the opening remarks of a town hall recently by Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton. And now what you're going to see is a town hall by Republican from Texas, Keith Self.
Okay, my son has 22 years of civil service behind him. He has been deployed many times. He's been to Bosnia, Afghanistan, Kuwait, Pakistan, Iraq, and that's just to name a few. As a sacrifice not only by him, but also his family. He has 2 kids in college and 1 more to go. He served 10 years in the Air Force and his wife served 9. Don't tell me they have not sacrificed for this country.
Thank you!
Waiting to see if he will be fired. He's knocking 50. He lives in the D.C. area. Government contractors are losing their contracts, so he will have a very difficult time finding a new job, especially since there are now so many civil servants also looking for jobs. What will you do to protect my son and other civil servants?
Well, it's important that the government get down to the right size.
It's important that the government get down to the right size, so he intentionally chooses not to answer the question and in fact doesn't say anything about it at all. Okay, well, let's move on.
I'd love your take on this phenomenon we see in our politics now, where the president will say something outrageous, tongue-in-cheek. His allies will laugh it off and say that's Trump being Trump. But it gets repeated enough. It gets picked up by certain amplifiers. And I'm speaking specifically of his language about a third term now. And even people in our orbit are saying that can't happen. It's unconstitutional. But that's
so he's doing all sorts of things that are unconstitutional.
That's not going to stop this president. And how does this process unfold where he will say something that in a previous political era would have been just anathema to our DNA as democracy-loving people? It becomes so normalized that, I mean, it's the frog in boiling water analogy, right? How does this happen in politics?
This is what Goebbels taught us from the Third Reich, is that you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. That was his philosophy. That's what he learned to do under Hitler. And that's how he got this actually extraordinarily educated, developed, successful country in Europe, Germany, to commit some of the most heinous crimes in human history, with a whole bunch of people doing it willingly because they got indoctrinated into these lies. And that is what Trump has done to the Republican Party.
Okay, so I just want to be abundantly clear about my motivations here. Look what you've got. You've got one guy who's very clear-headed, who, you know, he served on the ground. He knows what it looks like to be in a combat zone. I'm not saying that Keith Self does, and I don't know what his background is in the military, but what he's saying here is specifically about the indoctrination that happens. And then look at this clip.
I'm asking you, what is the role of government in public opinion? Because we're talking about actions here that have tried to form public opinion on the Hunter laptop, on the Russia disinformation, all of that. I'm asking you, what is the role of government in that matter?
Absolutely, Congressman. So the government is allowed to express its own opinions, its viewpoints, as we're seeing this administration do, as we saw the previous administration do.
What is their role when it is absolutely wrong? The Hunter laptop is probably the best example we could roll out here.
I actually disagree with that, because when Twitter decided to add friction to the Hunter Biden laptop case, it actually got more views. You've also heard Mr. Taibbi talk about, 22 million tweets, millions of things censored through the GEC to the Election Integrity Partnership. You know how many emails went between the GEC and the EIP? 15. You can look it up in Chairman Jordan's documents that he released at the end of last year. 15 emails. I've sent more text messages to my husband about our toddler's potty training in the last week than emails went from the GEC to the EIP. And those were all about overt Russian propaganda, RT and Sputnik, except for one, when the GEC analyst said to the folks there, I can't comment on this one because I'm a government employee, but I think you should check it out. That's all that happened, sir.
So I'm going to leave you, and I'll yield back a little bit of my time. A direct quote from Joseph Goebbels. It is the absolute right of the state to supervise the formation of public opinion, and I think that may be what we're discussing here.
So for those of you who don't know, who is Joseph Goebbels that was just quoted by this Republican from Texas? Well, I found another clip or two to maybe enlighten you on this a little bit, and to just put the stark contrast between a good representative and a bad representative.
Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's infamous minister of propaganda, the original master of spin, who brainwashed the German people into joining the Nazi cause. His lies paved the way for the Holocaust and ushered in the most devastating war in modern history. His commitment was total.
To murder your 6 children, it requires devotion that becomes evil in itself.
It is the absolute right of the state to supervise the formation of public opinion. Oh, you mean like this?
Keinen Wert mehr ohne die Bücher. Die Bücher sind der Inhalt der Regale.
On the night of May 10th, 1933, less than 3 months after Hitler took power, Nazi supporters torched a mountain of books by Jewish authors right here in this square.
Die Aktion wurde insbesondere organisiert von dem Nationalsozialistischen Hochschulbund. Gegen Mitternacht kam Goebbels und hielt dann noch eine Rede, eine Propagandarede.
Das Zeitalter eines überspitzten jüdischen Intellektualismus ist nun zu Ende. Der Durchbruch der deutschen Revolution hat auf dem deutschen Weg wieder die Gasse freigemacht.
Die LKWs mit ca. 25.000 Büchern wurden hier zu dem, damals hieß er noch Opernplatz.
So they burnt 25,000 volumes of books right here?
Circa, yes.
My friends around here on the other side of the aisle, they know what's going on. They're just cowards.
Do they hate themselves?
They're total cowards. I think that they've somehow deluded themselves into justifying it, because I don't understand how they sleep at night. Yeah. Maybe they take a ton of sleeping pills or something, but I don't know how they go to sleep at night knowing that they are lying through their teeth when they support this stuff that they know is unconstitutional, it's lawless, it's un-American, it's unpatriotic, and it would never be accepted under any other president, Democrat or Republican.
I consider myself a patriotic American, and that means that we stand up for the Constitution, and we don't let these people use history in a manner like this, acting like we don't know what it meant. Stay safe out there, everybody, and keep up the resistance to what we have going on in the Trump administration. And we have to stand up for our country as citizens. And as congresspeople, we need people on Republicans and Democrats alike to resist the incredible atrocities that have already happened with these abductions of immigrants and the denial of due process, the suppression of free speech. And we cannot allow people to quote someone who is a chief Nazi propagandist who murdered his own 6 children. All right, well, thanks for watching.